6 tourism impacts Florida never expected when Canadians stopped visiting.
And empty lounge chairs? If you've been here recently, you might have noticed something strange. The Canadian snowbirds, who for decades have been the backbone of Florida's winter economy, aren't showing up like they used to, and the ripple effects are bigger than most people realize. For years, Canadians have been Florida's most reliable winter guests. They escape snowstorms for sunshine, stay for weeks or even months, and spend generously, from hotel rooms and rental condos to dinners out, golf passes, and shopping sprees. But now, that steady stream has slowed to a trickle in some areas. Rising travel costs, stricter insurance requirements, a weaker Canadian dollar, and even warmer winters up north are changing where and how they vacation. It's not just fewer tourists. It's a shift that could upend Florida's entire seasonal economy. And here's the kicker. We're not just talking about hotels losing bookings. This affects jobs, local businesses, tax revenues, and even Florida's real estate market. If you think this is only a Florida problem, think again. It's a warning sign for tourism across the U.S. Over the next few minutes, I'm going to break down 6 major ways that Canadians leaving is hurting Florida's tourism, and why it matters more than you think. But before we dive in, do me a quick favor. Hit that like button so more people can see this, and subscribe if you want deeper, well-researched breakdowns on how global travel trends are reshaping local economies. Number 1. Hotels and short-term rentals feeling the pinch. One of the first places you see the absence of Canadian visitors is in Florida's hotels and vacation rentals. In past winters, from December through March, it was nearly impossible to find a decent room in places like Fort Lauderdale, Naples, or Clearwater without booking months in advance. Entire condo complexes were filled with familiar snowbird faces who came back year after year, staying for weeks or even the entire season. But now, many of those same properties have empty units sitting for days, sometimes weeks, at a time. It's not that other tourists aren't coming, it's that Canadians are different. They didn't just stay for a quick weekend getaway. They booked long stretches, often at higher seasonal rates, and filled in the slowest months for domestic tourism. Losing even a portion of
Florida beaches are empty because racism don't pay the bills. Now, those beaches and businesses are empty in Florida, and the business owners are scratching their head. They're like, I don't understand what's happening and why this is going on. This is what happens when you build your entire platform on bigotry and fear. When you spend years attacking immigrants, the very people who visit your state, spend money in your hotels, eat at your restaurants, buy your tacky-ass beach tiles. Don't act shocked when they stop showing up. And understand, it's not just tourists who aren't coming to Florida. When you squeeze the working class like a lemon, there is no juice left for joy. You think people got beach money right now? People can't even afford to go outside. And all those Trump tariffs, those weren't on corporations. Those were Trump taxes on us. Prices went up, jobs got cut, and now folks are choosing between groceries and gas, not plane tickets to Clearwater. And y'all made Florida a hostile environment, honestly. And not just for immigrants, but also for black people, LGBTQ, teachers, hell, even librarians. Y'all made the beach a battleground. So now it's just you and those overpriced souvenir stands collecting dust. And now conservative business owners are mad. But they're mad at the consequences of the policies that they voted for. Baby, this ain't karma. This is cause and effect. Conservative policies destroy communities, period. So ask yourself, how long are you guys going to continue to vote against your own business?
Find the Dot family. Today we are at Florida again. Florida 2025 winter economy is struggling as calendar tourists and real estate demand collapse. Rental seats empty. Home buyer interest has dropped over 25%, and even long-time buyers are selling. Rising costs and fading confidence are draining billions from Florida's seasonal economy. Relax, watch the video. I'll be back to give you more commentary on this issue.
Florida didn't realize Canadians leaving would hurt tourism this bad.
not just one less room booked or one fewer car rented. It's months of spending, thousands upon thousands of dollars, that disappear from restaurants, shops, healthcare providers, and service industries. And as we move through the year 2025, the signs are beginning to show. Seasonal rentals that used to be snapped up a year in advance are sitting empty. Real estate agents are seeing a drop in Canadian interest. The numbers are down, the bookings are quiet, and Florida's winter economy is starting to feel the chill. One of the earliest warning signs that something was shifting came from real estate platforms. According to data from Redfin, interest from Canadian buyers searching for U.S. properties dropped by more than 25% compared to last year. That's not just a seasonal blip. It's the most significant decline among all foreign buyers. And guess what? Florida is right at the center of it. For decades, Florida was the dream. Warm winters, beachside living, and relatively affordable homes made it the ultimate escape for Canadians looking for a second home. But now, real estate agents across the state are seeing something different. Inquiries are down, and for some, they've stopped altogether. One agent who typically works with several Canadian buyers each season reported that this year, for the first time in over a decade, not a single Canadian client reached out. Even more telling is the rise in foreign sellers. Multiple agents have reported an uptick in properties being listed by non-resident owners. It's a quiet but powerful reversal. Instead of buying into the dream, people are backing out of it. The reasons vary. Yes, some mention rising insurance costs or property tax burdens, but many say the shift isn't just financial, it's emotional. It's about whether the U.S. still feels like a place they want to invest in or even visit. This isn't just a real estate story. It's an economic warning. When foreign interest drops, it doesn't just affect the housing market. It trickles down into everything: construction jobs, renovation services, legal fees, tourism dollars, and more. Florida built a billion-dollar seasonal economy on predictable Canadian demand. But now, in 2025, that demand is unraveling, and the real estate market is sounding the alarm. If real estate sales are the long game, then rentals are the immediate pulse of snowbird activity. And right now, that pulse is faint. In years past, seasonal rentals in Florida were practically impossible to get last minute. Properties would be booked out a year in advance, especially the ones.
Another day, another way that Donald Trump is actively making life worse for the very people who voted for him, this time in Florida. Mother Jones has a story on how Canadians, they don't want to travel to the U.S. right now. I mean, shocker, Donald Trump has done everything he can to alienate our neighbor Canada. Why would Canadians want to spend their money in the U.S.? Our president has threatened to invade them. Trump's illegal tariffs are hurting their economy. Tourists are being snatched up by ICE and detained for days and weeks. There have been tourists from multiple countries across Europe, as well as Canada, who have been abducted by ICE and held for long periods. For no reason at all. Why would you want to vacation somewhere where the American Gestapo might snatch you up? Where the leader of that country has threatened to invade your homeland? And I was actually surprised by this Mother Jones article, despite the fact that my parents lived for many years in Fort Myers. I wasn't really aware of how much Canadians are vital to the economy of Florida. In Orlando, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis brushed off reports that Canadians are increasingly not visiting the Sunshine State. As evidence, DeSantis cited his family's recent trip to Legoland, where he claimed that 80% of the people who were there were Canadians. Yeah, okay, bro, we believe you. So Canadians are the largest proportion, nearly 28% of all international travelers visiting Florida. And according to the Canadian Embassy, Canadians also comprise the largest number of international visitors to the entire U.S. But again, surprise, surprise, new tourism numbers for the first quarter of 2025 released by Visit Florida show that there has been a dip in visitors from Canada. Growing tensions between Canada and the U.S. due to U.S. illegal tariffs and the rhetoric from the Trump regime about adopting Canada as a 51st state, invading and occupying Canada. It's not an adoption. That has contributed to a shift in travel patterns between the two neighbors. Flights from Canada to South Florida have declined 20%. Visual Approach Analytics, an aviation data firm, found that Canadian travel had decreased 20% at the Fort Lauderdale airport and 12% at Orlando's airport between January and March of this year. Canadian travel agents are predicting a downward trend of travel not only to Florida, but all across the U.S. by Canadians. After Trump threatened to punish Canada with tariffs and the annexation of Canada as a 51st state. Again, why are we using this word annexation like Putin annexed Crimea? You mean invade and occupy a sovereign nation. As soon as that shit started rolling out from Trump's mouth, Canadian travel agencies, including the Travel Group based in Vancouver, said that they saw a 20% dip in spring break bookings to the US. People were no longer wanting to go to San Diego, LA, Palm Springs, Vegas, or Phoenix. They were all choosing to go to Mexico instead. Stephanie Stella, owner of the travel agency Glow With Me Adventures, specializes in helping Canadians book trips to Disney parks in Florida and California. She says she's seeing cancellations from clients who, quote, just either ethically or morally don't feel right about traveling to the States right now. So there's some speculation that travel from Canada will dip even farther because right now they're seeing people who are continuing to go on their trip because it was non-refundable. It was too close to the date. They couldn't get their money back. And they're like, we'll go ahead and go to the US, but we sure as fuck are not going to go there again after we are no longer going to be going there. So the expectation is that you are still seeing travelers from Canada go to the States now because they couldn't get their money back for their trip. But for future trips, they will be going elsewhere. So the economic impact to the US, especially states like Florida, is going to get worse. A lot of Canadians fly to Florida and then take cruises from there. They're no longer doing it. One travel agent said they've seen a 90% decrease in future bookings to the US. We basically saw a complete collapse of this business. Instead, his Canadian clients are choosing to travel to Europe and Asia and Mexico. What began as a protest against tariffs and protecting Canada's sovereignty has now evolved into concerns about safety and uncertainty as increased immigration enforcement becomes an issue. There was the 12-day detainment of a Canadian actress at the US-Mexico border that intensified fears for Canadians. Trump won Florida this round by 13.1 points over Kamala Harris. That's the biggest margin for a Republican in that state since 1988. Again, there's no such thing as blue states and red states when it comes down to it. There are blue voters all over Florida. There are millions of Floridians who do not want this. But everybody in Florida is going to pay the economic price for having Donald Trump in the White House. Donald Trump's policies, his cruel and chaotic behavior, it all hurts every American citizen, including the people who voted for and support him. Nothing about what Trump is doing is making America great again. It is wrecking the things that we care about. Nothing that Trump is doing is making Florida great again. Floridians, all he's doing is hurting you. Trump voters, all he is doing is hurting you. I know that it's difficult to see the manifestation of all of the harm that he is causing, but it's rolling out. It's rolling out. Those impacts are just going to get worse and worse and worse. He doesn't care about working class people. He doesn't care about the American economy. He doesn't care about your quality of life at all. He doesn't care about you having prosperity. Arguably, he enjoys the cruelty and the suffering that he causes. The only things he cares about are the consolidation of his own wealth and power. Every day we learn about new ways that he's making this country worse. He's wrecking everything. The longer we let him keep breaking the law and destroying our economy, the harder it's going to be to dig out from this. Either way, we will have to dig out from this, but the longer he's in control, the worse it's going to get for us.
Come back, family. Florida's situation is more than just number on a chart. Is a reminder of how deep connected economies are to be trusted. Predict pattern. For decades, Canada were the heartbeat of Florida winter economy, flooring everything that real estate, from real estate to local dinner. Now, as that demand weaken, a triple effect is hitting everyone: landlord, small business, construction worker, even healthcare provider. But here is the lesson for all of us. No economy, no matter how strong, can afford to depend too heavily on just one group of customers, whether they are running a business, investing, or simply planning for future purposes. Diversification is the key. Just as Florida must look at new market, new stories, and fresh trajectory, individuals should also look at how to spread out their risk, income, savings, and even in opportunity we pursue. For my viewers, here are 3 unique things you should learn from this story. Adaptability win in the long run. When the environment change, whether it's stories, real estate, or your personal career, the one who succeed are those that can just adapt quickly rather than wait for the old normal to return. Emotion drives decision as much as money. Canadians are not just living because of higher costs, they are living because the emotional connection to Florida has weakened. In your own ventures, never underestimate the power of trust, loyalty, and how people feel about doing business with them. Local resilience matter. Community that rely too heavily on outsiders can struggle when those outsiders pull back. Supporting local business, building network, and creating values at home makes any economic, any family stronger against global shifts. So as Florida rethink its future, ask yourself, where am I depending too much on one stream, one customer, or one way of doing things? Because the best security you can create is the ability to adapt, diversify, and rebuild no matter what change brings to you. Power greeting goes to the creator and stitches of this video for bringing it to public domain. Thank you.